Here, we're recording. We'll go with that. Who are we talking about?
Andrew Stevens.
Andrew Stevens. All right. Now I got to go dig up Andrew Stevens. Here we go. Yes, now you people know that once we've hit like 100 or more people that we have interviewed, sometimes you forget like who was that specific person. I got a great one the other day. I actually had something show up on LinkedIn. Greg, and now I just lost his name again, was one of my favorite interviewees from like years ago. He is the piano guy. Darn it, I wish I could think of his last name off the top of my head, but he is like cranking out some really cool stuff. So we'll put that in the show notes or something like that. At some point, I'll like, refer back to it and I will chase him down because it was a really good, you guys should support him. So let's see, we talked about entrepreneurship, multiple projects, got into AI.
Yeah, he was the Fractal CTO.
Yep. So yeah, so this is one that we had a lot of we had a lot of simpatico there.
Yeah, we had a lot of early discuss. Like most of the interview was discussions around entrepreneurship, getting started on your business, working on your business, juggling the project. I mean, we touched on AI a little bit towards the end, like how to juggle AI to help streamline things. But most of it was about his experience with and our conversations around our experiences around working on your business, growing your business, getting better with your business, things of that nature.
Yeah, so cool. That'll work. So we will dive right in. Let's do, and we still have, someday we'll actually have like a real, I don't know, we need like a little music bed. We need something like that to like really like, yeah, turn this into a more polished start. We'll get that to you guys at some point. We're just sort of like winging it right now because this is a cool-ish thing. But we will start. I will introduce myself. You guys know who I am, but I'm just going to do it again because that's who we are. This is, in case this is your first Challenge Friday, first thing is go watch the previous two episodes here or jump out on the podcast if you want to and watch the previous two episodes. This is actually not an episode on the podcast, but you'll find those. This is where we are talking with Andrew Stevens. They will have been released, not sure exactly the dates, but when this came, they were released Tuesday and Thursday. We are the Developreneur Podcast. We're building better developers. The whole purpose of this Friday thing that we're doing is just bring back a little bit accountability and to have a weekly challenge to summarize and give ourselves a little bit of time to talk about a little further some of the topics we hit during the discussions in the week, but then also to make sure that there is a challenge for you guys to push you to become a better developer. A lot of this is the kind of stuff that we push for ourselves, that we assign ourselves, or that the speakers that we talk to, the guests, have brought to mind. So I think they're valid. They're definitely valuable and valid as a challenge, and hopefully something that if you just do this even once a month, you pick one of these up, you will start seeing a very good progress forward in the momentum that you need. I'm also while being a founder of Developreneur, also a founder of RB Consulting, where we have a technology reality check. We help you figure out before you jump into that project, should you jump into that project? And if so, how should you? Because a lot of companies are just not ready for it. We've talked about that a lot, and we will continue to do so. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is it's a Friday and it's sunny, which I haven't seen a ton of sun in the last couple of months, so I'm pretty happy. I mean, it's partly cloudy. It's not like sunny, but it's the right level of sunny for me at this point because seeing any sun is a bonus. Bad thing. Bad thing, I'll go with I started my day in the worst possible way. I'm a tea person. I had not gotten my first sip. I got maybe my first sip done, and I managed to accidentally knock over my tea, and then thus had to redo it all and clean up the mess. But luckily, good news is I have a wife that was jumping all over that and taking care of that for me. So sometimes you just have to have a good keeper. I do have a moderately good co-host. I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Michael.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developer. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses fix broken systems and replace the guesswork with testing dependable solutions built around your business. Good thing, bad thing. Well, it is sunny here. We are supposed to get 5 days of rain, so I will take that as a good thing right now that, hey, it's going to be a nice, wonderful day outside. Unfortunately, with that in Tennessee weather, the bad side of that is we're going to get rain for quite a few days after that. Kind of similar to you, though. I started my morning off kind of interesting. Not in a great way. Dog woke me up at 3:30 this morning and never quite got back to bed after that. So I'm feeling you. I'm started with coffee, and normally I don't start with coffee. I've been off coffee for a while. I've been drinking tea like Rob, but no, I'm on coffee this morning because the dog got me up about 3 hours early.
Bonus to coffee that got me like switching a little bit more to that occasionally is Natalie went to Cancun recently and brought back some Mexican chocolate. A little chunk of that in your coffee really makes it like really good. So let's talk about Andrew. I think one of the big things here is the. I really want to spend a little time on the fractional CTO CIO kind of role because I think it is something that all of us should consider at some point. And it really depends on whether you're more technical or whether you want to grow career-wise more personal. It is definitely a career step. And we've talked to now a couple of people, and obviously I talk about, we talk to me from time to time as well, people that have made this choice. And I think from a developer, if this is something that you want to move towards, it actually is a really good one if you don't want to be corporate, if you don't want to be an employee, because if you're going to be a CTO or CIO, you have to run everything. If you're a company, if you're going to be part of an employee, if you're going to be part of a company, then you have to actually, there's a lot that is involved in that. There's a lot of really, for lack of a better term, drinking the Kool-Aid is like being a part of that organization. It's your organization, essentially, or you have to think of it that way, or you're not going to do it right. In a fractional role, it is similar because you're going to feel like these customers, if you do it right, you're going to feel like these customers are your people. They are they're your children, or however you want to look at it. They're your family. They're people that you want to succeed. And what you're doing is you're saying, I am not the best person forever to be a part of this, but I do want to help you be successful. And it is very much it is a constrained, time-boxed kind of a role, is to come in and say, look, let's talk about where you're at. Let's talk about where you want to go, and let's figure out how we get you there, obviously with a technology bent. If you're a problem solver, if that's part of what you like, if you're an architect, if that's what you like, then it does give you those opportunities. It's really more higher end problem solving than architecture, unless you position yourself as somebody that is going to implement as well. It is very easy to get pushed outside of the implementation space, which is sort of what Andrew talked about, is that he went to a point where he really decided that the technical skills don't really matter. And honestly, I highly recommend a lot of you get to this point sooner rather than later, because I think with AI coming, that the technical skills are not going to matter as much. I'm sorry for all of us that have spent a lot of time learning how to code in dozens of different languages. But that now, and like I am somebody that's got that. I've got literally dozens of languages on my resume, and that is totally useless at this point. Nobody cares because AI will get you there a lot faster. Okay, some people still care, but I think that's going to fade very quickly. So you need to be switching more into understanding business, understanding the why, understanding problem solving. And this honestly will push, I think, a lot more people to be the equivalent of a fractional CIO or CTO sooner rather than later. And honestly, that's even what AI should do, and how you should be looking at it is now your development team. So if you're not a leader or manager, you now are leading and managing, and you should be using it in such a way. And then you should be able to grow that. And then you should be pushing yourself instead of doing the things like writing code, doing the things like solving problems, architecting solutions that now are, going to be the next level up, because AI can do some of it, but it really more can help you than actually do it. I'm going to take a breath because that's a lot right there. I'm going to get off my soapbox, and I'm going to open it up to you. What are your thoughts on this, on Andrew, and then obviously feedback on anything I said?
So you've already covered really well with the CTO portion of this, which was really an interesting conversation with him because you and I have talked about this before, and I like to be more down into the code, solving problems, doing things of that nature. And the problem, and even I still run into this today, running my business, is we we can stumble trying to figure out how to run the business because we focus on certain areas in our business. And he even talked about it in our discussion, where it's like, I would rather be working on this than this, so I'll focus my time on this. But then the other parts of your business struggle because you're not working on them as well. So he offered some interesting suggestions around planning, trying to prioritize your week. We have always talked about sprints. We talk about agile all the time. He touched on that. It was interesting. He deliberately schedules himself at 60 to 80% of capacity. He doesn't always do 100% capacity, which I thought was an interesting concept because we've always talked about, okay, trying to plan how long a project will take. We've never actually talked about like how much time should we actually give ourselves in a day to a problem. Yeah, we may say, okay, this will take all day, or we'll work on this problem today because we think we'll solve it today. But chances are you may not solve it today. We have to have that mindset where, well, we think it may take 2 hours. We still have to tack on the technical debt, so to speak, to that task to figure out how long it'll take. So if we just think, oh, I have 2 hours, I can jump on and get this done, you're going to get frustrated or things aren't going to quite get done. You're going to run into scheduling conflicts and just kind of fall off the track. So those were some of the takeaways I had from this. The other thing with the discussion that we got into later on in the interview was we started talking about using AI, where he talked about he uses it to analyze, debug his code. He uses it to write code. But it was interesting that he called out that he doesn't use AI generated code in production. That was a rather interesting comment he made because a lot of people are vibe coding right now. A lot of people are using AI to help them write code. And a lot of that code is good code. It is production quality code, but you still have to go through and check the code. Now, I wouldn't say just take at first glance, have it generated the code and publish to production. No, but you still need to go through your daily agile routines of code reviews. You need to go through and test your software. If it still tests, it still works, it still looks good, it should still be able to go to production. Just don't take it at face value. Make sure you do your due diligence and check on your code. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100% with that. And I actually was just in a round table last night, and I wish I could think of the name of the company that this CEO, Ragic is the name of it, and it's Jeff Coe. Was just talking about this because they do no code tools. They've been doing this for a while, and he specifically talked about using the AI not only it's to solve the problem, but it's also making sure that you're putting like tests in place, that you're really spending the time in the design phase so that when you go to implementation, which is when you have AI generate stuff, you've thought through the problems. And I think it does allow us, and I use this a lot, to test what we've done. So I will constantly say, give me unit tests with it. And I will tell it like, what are edge cases? What are some things where this will break? What is a typical user? There's all this extra stuff that you can put on top of it, questions and constraints to help you make sure that it comes out in a decent way. And then you run it, you test it. You don't just like kick it off into production. You actually run it through its normal processes. It goes back to what I said is like, now you should be a manager or a leader and you can use AI like that because AI is not going to mess up really any more than your average, junior or mid-level developer. You're still going to have the same things. And honestly, my developers, I have some of the same conversations with them that I have with AI when I get code back, when I'd be like, hey, you didn't check this, or hey, this doesn't cover this case, or hey, this problem was misunderstood. This is not the right solution to it. We need to shift gears on it. So I think there's definitely a value for with it. I think it is going to be better as we get further along. AI is just rapidly advancing, and I think that's going to be one of those things where yeah, right now maybe people don't do it, and a lot of people. I think it's the right thing for it to say is like I don't trust AI enough, but we need to. We need to use it for what it's worth. Is that it can generate stuff that can help us quite a bit. We just have to make sure that we're building the guardrails around it.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because oddly enough, last night I was taking a project I was working on, and I had completed a section of code. And what I did was I fed it into AI. I said, write me some markdown requirements based off of this documentation. So I fed it my requirements docs and I fed it my tickets. And it came back and it built me the SRS, the software requirements document. It built me the requirements traceability matrix. It took all my tickets and put them where they needed to be. It actually went through and then looked at what the requirements were, looked at what I had actually completed, what tests were actually defined, and then it even went through and said, here are some possible gaps you might have missed based on that. And then it said, hey, do you want me to do another run through of your code and check to make sure, apply the test and everything? And it did. And within about 15, 20 minutes, I found I had 4 gaps. Within another 10 minutes, I had those gaps filled. I had all the tests covering everything. And I had a nice, clean document that I could show my customer and say, hey, here is a summary of what work's been done, what's been tested, in a clean business document that anyone should be able to read that's not technical. And it had just enough technical pieces in there, though, for the developers in it to be able to go in and go, oh, yeah, this is what I missed, or oh, this is what we fixed, or what was done with this particular piece of code. So if you're not using AI yet for this, start doing it today. And we talked prior, so I think maybe it was the last challenge, but I've started using running my own chatbots, my GPTs. And what I've been doing is I've been dropping it into different AI, like Claude AI, GPT, Copilot, and I'm actually having each AI play with the chatbot that I put in there, the prompts, and each one comes back and they're tweaking it slightly differently. But I've got it now to a point where most of my prompts I can drop into any AI and I get almost the same style of results that I'm expecting, but it's based on that language model. So I might get a more document detailed version from Claude AI. If I use Codex within GPT, I get a more code quality check. And it just depends on the tool. But it's interesting that the more I play with prompts, the more I play with GPTs, the better AI experience I'm actually getting versus just doing with the typical chatbot interface.
Oh, definitely. The more you use it because it learns, the more you work with it, the better it's going to be. We have done this. I have this in multiple areas. A great example is we're doing this with travel related stuff, and it now will recommend things very much based on this long list of stuff that we've said. This is what we like. This is what we don't like. This is what we're looking for. These are parameters. The more you build that in, the better it's going to be. And you can use that. And I have used that several times, or I've even said synopsize it, like take this conversation and turn it into a list of requirements, essentially a prompt that I can use somewhere else. And I can just take it and drop it somewhere else. I will use AI engines to compete with each other. And I'll say, okay, this guy generated this. And I'll go to the other one and say, okay, well, where are the gaps and how would you improve it? And there is slightly different. It's like having a board. It is like having multiple developers that you're working with where they have different mindsets and different strengths. And using those. And I haven't pushed it quite as much as I'm about to in like another phase, is kicking it up another gear. But it is something that the more you do, the more you buy in, the more value you're going to get out of it. If you just occasionally throw a couple things at it, it's not going to get much. But if you start using it on a regular basis, then it's going to actually help you out, particularly with things like requirements and stuff like that, and designs where it will start, I think, highlighting where you have gaps in your own knowledge and your skills and things like that. Because it'll be like, oh yeah, you forgot to do this, or it will start, it'll know who you are. And it's like, I get that all the time where I'm like, okay, don't give me this. Don't give me in this way. Give it to me in my style or my corporate style or all these different, things that there's keywords I can tell it basically. And it says, oh, I've got to load, this context up. And then boom, suddenly things change a lot, but it's formatting and it's stuff like that. So there's a lot of value to it. I think he hit on a lot of key things, is that it's definitely at a point where we can use it for debugging. We can do it for logging. We can do it for testing. We can do it for the things that are the standards that we talk about all the time that people forget in applications. We can tell it to throw those things, like, give me a database that's a basic customer database, and give me a login, and give me a screen, and give me all of these things. And you can, honestly, I've even used it with several cases where it's like that. Generate the requirements, and then I start walking through the requirements like, okay, so where are we at? What do we have left? What should we do here? I have had a really interesting time learning how to write grants, working with AI and walking through stuff and say, okay, well, how do we do this? And it'll say, well, you should do A, B, and C. And so I'll be like, okay, so tell me how I do A. How should that look? What should we do? And then it is a great learning tool as well. That's why I've recommended like everybody, I recommend build your own chatbot. Use AI to build your own chatbot, to connect to that AI, to have something that's a separate little, bot of some sort, because you're going to learn a lot about it. Learn about the context and the prompts and how you send conversations back and forth, and some of those pieces that are just like, they're not that complicated, but I think it'll help your career immensely. Way off track on this. We got a little bit sidetracked on all this. We digress maybe just a little bit. I did want to say is that it's what we came back around to with Andrew is, I think, goes back to something we have hit on many, many times, is that it really comes to solving problems. If you're focused on technology, then you're not focused in the right place to really advance your career. Early on, first couple of years of your career as a developer in particular, I think it's still useful to have the core knowledge to understand like structures and classes and inheritance and vectors and databases and just the things, the theory behind this stuff. But then once you've got that, you need to be focused on applying it. How do I okay, I've got this great knowledge. How do I use that to solve this problem? So when you're talking to a customer, when you want to grow your career, when you're talking in an interview, what problem do you want to solve? Because that's like, that question is going to be the key one. Is like, once we've got that, okay, this is a problem you want to solve. Well, let's dig deeper into that. Let's start digging into that. Like, is that really a problem? How is that a problem? What are some good solutions? What are some constraints? Why hasn't that problem been solved before? There's all these questions that you can ask that will really advance you down that process. And honestly, the cheat code is, if you don't understand it, then go to AI and work with it. Is say, okay, this is what I did. How can I do it better? I literally took a conversation yesterday, which was a really fun little test of AI, as I connected to somebody, had a conversation, had the whole thing recorded. So I dropped the entire transcript in and I said, okay, this is what we decided I was going to do in this conversation. This is how it went. Assess it. Tell me what I did right. What did I do wrong? How do I proceed from here? What is your recommendations? It is literally having a coach or a consultant on your shoulder for any process that you want to do. And once you embrace that, then it becomes like, where do you want to go? How do you get better? If you can even ask AI, how do I get better? And it will give you options. You just got to make sure that this is where you're going to have to learn that you've got to ask the right questions. You really can't just assume that you know the problem unless you do. And so you need to dig deeper into that. And even then, ask on a regular basis, what am I not asking? Why are they? Yeah, I think that was one of the best questions I asked AI last year. I said, like, what's the craziest thing I've asked you? And then I was like, what was the smartest thing I asked you? And then I asked it, what is the thing I should have asked you? And got a really interesting set of responses back that actually have launched me into some of what I'm doing this year. I'm really sitting way too much time on my soapbox right now. So let's get back to that. So,
Let me
um,
just chime in one thing there on that before we get to the challenge. So it really does all come back to the why. Why are you doing this? But the other thing is make sure that you're solving the right problem. Make sure that the technology is great when it's solving real problems, but also when it's solving the right problem. Not what you think is what you don't want to be the baby stroller inventor and never had a baby. You want to make sure that what problem you're solving, you understand it, you understand your customer, and that you really do understand the problem. And AI is great for that, but it is also bad to give you false solutions or a solution that isn't really for your problem. So do make sure that you ask a lot of questions, you vet the answers, and then enjoy your journey.
so what do you think? What are your thoughts on a challenge?
So this one, we've talked AI before. We've talked a whole lot about chatbots and prompts in this one, but I kind of want to go back to your beginning when you talked about the CTO
Mhm.
becoming a fractal CTO. Maybe not necessarily a fractal CTO, but I think our challenge should be, where do you want to go? How do you want to grow? And use AI to kickstart that conversation. Start figuring out some prompts, talk to AI, and figure out, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to be, or here's where I'm at. Where can I go? Because maybe you're still too new in this particular field. And with AI, with everything going on right now, you really don't know what to do. Get some ideas. Use it as a launching board to get you to that next level.
I really like that. I think I'll adjust it a little bit just to make it less like relying on AI. But I think the challenge this week is to think of your. This would be an interesting one because for developers it's one way, but if you're an entrepreneur, it's going to be a little different. But basically, think of your primary current skill set. What is your primary current like thing that you have to offer your customers, your boss, your employer, and stuff like that? If you're a developer, it's going to be your technical skills. If you're an entrepreneur, it is probably going to be something else, like maybe it's your sales skills, it's your vision skills, it's your marketing skills, or something like that. What happens? Like, wipe that out. So take away your strength and let's go to whatever your secondary thing is. Or like, what do you do then? What is your secondary? What is your fallback position? Because I think this is a very interesting exercise to have. It's like, okay, so if that goes away, how do I make money? How do I survive? How am I employable? How do I keep my customers coming to me if I take away that number one strength? Now, it may be that you have a business that you're built entirely on, like that's it. Like, as Apple's was with Steve Jobs, it was like simplicity. It was the beauty of simplicity. That's what the whole iPod in that launch came from. But I think it's something that's worth spending a little time on. It's like, okay, if this thing that I bank on goes away, where do I go next? And feel free to use AI, talk to your friends, your family, whoever, your coworkers, have this conversation because I think it's a really informative one to have. Is if you because it's basically saying, take the assumptions that you currently have, wipe them clean, ignore them, and let's reset with a whole different set of assumptions and see what happens. I think you will find you might find epiphany on the other side of that. I have done this on a couple of occasions doing these kinds of things, these sorts of exercises, and I've always found them to be very enlightening, but also very motivating. And so hopefully it'll be the same way with you, where you're like, oh my gosh, it's like found money. It's like you find all this money, a pile of money that you're sitting there and you're like, gosh, I've got all this money. Now I've got all these cool things I can do with it. It's sort of like that to me. It's like that's where hopefully it's a motivational and a Kickstarter, especially now in a season of like getting unstuck and forward momentum and stuff like that, is giving you an opportunity. This is a tool I think to really like kick stuck right in the butt and say, okay, I'm gonna like all the things I'm doing, I'm gonna stop. and I'm going to try a paradigm shift and let's see what happens. Or actually, I guess it's a complete paradigm change. And let's see where I go with that. If you can do that and have something where you're like, oh my gosh, here's a whole second career, you're very blessed. And I think you've got a lot to do. If you can't, then it's like, let's work towards that because let's get some more self-insight and things of that nature. Thoughts on that is our like modified challenge.
I really like that. And it's similar to things we've heard, getting unstuck, especially for when you're dealing with seasons where you're blocked or where your anxiety is too high. I use this kind of a challenge all the time to help reset, to help get me refocused, to help get things going. And for a lot of people, if you haven't done this, this is one of the best challenges to start doing because you can modify it for other things in your life and it will help get you unstuck. It will help you get back to that forward momentum, that forward thinking.
I agree. Yeah, this is way beyond. This is anywhere in your life. If you are getting stuck, a lot of times it's due to assumptions based on whatever, anxiety, fear, imposter syndrome, you name it. Get rid of those assumptions, and it is amazing how much you free yourself from your mental prison. I will go back to loser think from the now past Scott Adams. There's a lot of stuff in there. It is not a light book, but there's a lot of stuff there where he talks about mental prisons and being basically a slave to your assumptions and things like that. And I think it's something that all of us can do a better job of getting away from those. So cool. I think we have a really good challenge. And it's a good, it really is something you can do this week. You can do this weekend. It's just like spend a little time, get a notebook or something like that. However you take notes, do that is like get something like that and just sort of like sit back and take some notes. If you want to use AI, grab set up a folder and have a conversation with your favorite AI bot. I talk to Chip all the time, as I call ChatGPT, about this and Chip's varying cousins. I think it's just like, yeah, this is a really cool one. I would love to hear back from you. info@developreneur.com, as you know, or rob@rb-sns.com. I don't care how you get back to us. Shoot an email because I would love to hear where you go from that. If you would like a conversation, again, info@developreneur.com. You leave us comments, stuff like that. We would be more than happy to have a little, Zoom conversation or whatever with about you and be that sounding board because these are things that make me give me joy. I love having conversations with customers and those that I work with when it's like, okay, we're freeing you from some of your preconceived notions, and now we can actually help you be the best version of you that you can be.
And if you didn't catch that, all that's in the show notes.
That's why he was like, that's why he was, as they say, tap dancing away on his keyboard, taking those notes. Go out there and have yourself a really good one. Enjoy your weekend. We do appreciate you so much. We appreciate you guys hanging out and gals and all that you bring, that just being there, giving us a reason to come back to this every week, giving all of our guests, they've had a great time. So feel free also make sure you're wherever you have, all of our guests have been so nice. If you have questions for them, shoot them an email. They give us links and way to contact them. Don't be afraid to do that. I think you will find that will open doors mentally and then also career professionally as well. So take advantage of these things. Parting thoughts from you before we wrap this one up.
I guess the last parting thought is it's the end of the week. Set your challenge. Go enjoy your weekend and hit the ground running on Monday.
That is the best way to do it. So as always, have a great day, a great week, a great weekend, and we will talk to you. Yeah, we will talk to you the next episode, next Tuesday. See, now we sort of know where we're at. So we will talk to you Tuesday. We'll be back with an interview, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good one. Thanks a lot, folks.